All right. It is now 6:01, February 16th. I'm calling the meeting to order for the February 16th Redevelopment Commission meeting. If staff would please take roll call.
Chair Clausen,
Present.
Vice Chair Kendall,
Present.
Commissioner Meehan,
Present.
Commissioner Bigelow.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Amanda. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters not on the agenda. The Commission's response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Are there communications from citizens at this time?
Mr. Chairman, there are no communications from citizens at this time.
Thank you. We now move into administrative item number 1, considering approval of the minutes for the regular meeting held on January 19th, 2022. Are there any edits the Commission wishes to make? Do I have a motion for the Redevelopment Commission regular meeting and study session minutes for January 19th, 2022?
I move to approve the minutes from January 19th, 2022.
I second.
With that, I will take a roll call vote. Commissioner Bigelow, do you approve the meeting minutes for January 19th, 2022?
Yes.
Commissioner Meehan
Yes.
and Commissioner Kendall?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well to approve the minutes for January 19th, 2022. We now move on to the public hearing, which will be led by our Vice Chair, as I have decided to recuse myself from matters related to Heritage North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will now open the public hearing for DR 20-48 Heritage North. Items will be heard at one public hearing, at which time anyone wishing to comment on a public hearing item may do so. Comments will be heard from those in support of or in opposition to an item. In order to comment on a public hearing item, you must fill out a public comment form indicating the item number on which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the Commission. After the public hearing, the Commission may act upon all items, not requiring additional staff, public, or Commission comment with a single vote. If staff would please come forward to provide a presentation on item DR 20-48 Heritage North.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Excited to be here tonight to talk about this project. I have a presentation Jocelyn's getting loaded for me. It is kind of a lengthy presentation, I will forewarn you, but I'm going to move through it pretty quickly. If at any point you want me to slow down and talk about anything in more detail, feel free to let me know or ask questions as I go along. Certainly want to do justice to this really big, significant project in the downtown, so that is the reason for the length. No worries. All right, so I know you've heard from me a lot on this project, so I appreciate your patience as we've gone through this process. Hey, Jocelyn, this isn't working. Can you click on that? Perfect. There we go. All right, so we all know this project is located at the southwest corner of Juniper and Gilbert Road, on what is currently utilized as overflow parking site, as well as the Burger King. As background, you've heard this a number of times. It's a 9.9 net acre site. Starting in 2019, and then in March of 2020, we received our first applications. In terms of process, we've completed a few steps already. That's the rezoning process that Redevelopment Commission, Planning Commission, and Town Council all approved. Then the use permits, which were approved again by Redevelopment Commission and then the Planning Commission. And tonight we are here in one of the final steps with Redevelopment Commission taking a look at the design review. Following this, if this is a successful application tonight, we'll move forward with that administrative use permit for the parking that we've talked about a number of times. So tonight specifically, Redevelopment Commission is looking at the design review, which will approve the site plan, landscape, grading and drainage plan, the elevations, floor plans, lighting, colors, and materials on the 9.9 acre site. So appreciate your efforts in going through the nearly 200 pages of documents that were included in your staff report. Staff has been combing over those with a fine-tooth comb over the past couple of years. So, we appreciate your effort. I thought it was important, too, to just take a moment to show where we've come with this project. So this plan here is one of the pretty pictures of the very first submittal. This was part of their landscape plan that showed that building to the north. That was all multifamily, went all the way to Gilbert and Juniper. The hotel was to the south, and then the commons open space was right there in the center. And so I thought we should give some credit to the developer for working really closely with the town to make some significant changes that really benefited this project. One of those being the Paseo connection through the site. With the original development, we worked closely with them to make a more meaningful connection all the way up to Juniper. In this iteration, the plan entered at the south end and kind of dead-ended in the middle, and so we were really pleased that we were able to come to, a better connection point all the way up to Juniper. We made some improvements along Juniper and Gilbert Road in not having the multifamily in that portion. And then one of the other things that we really appreciate the developer coming to the table with a new plan for that commons open space so that it touches Gilbert Road and it really feels like it's something that belongs to the Heritage District rather than just this development. And so I wanted to just take a moment to give a little bit of kudos for the work that was done on those significant and important pieces to the town. So you've seen, again, the site plan a couple of times. There's a total of nine total buildings for this project, a number of public amenities that will be improved as part of this project. And we'll go through a couple of these in more detail, such as the Paseo, as we go through. So I'm going to walk through in my presentation each of the buildings. Since a significant portion of the design review is looking at architecture of buildings, we'll be looking at all of the elevations of each building. Like I said, I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because there's a lot of slides in here, but if at any point you want me to slow down, please let me know. So the multifamily building did end up being about 288 units. It's 5 stories, the very top of that being 78 feet 10 inches, but as we know from the rezoning project, that was limited to a small portion of that building. So this is consistent with the rezoning and what we were expecting. So again, that portion that's above the height limit of the zoning district that was approved through that rezoning is highlighted there in red. In terms of the elevations, there are 3 distinct architectural styles as part of this to really create some diversity and interest in this building so that it doesn't feel like one very large massing in the Heritage District. So we were really pleased with the architectural styles that they were able to bring here to create some of that diversity. So as we start to kind of walk through those, this elevation is these are the portions that look towards Gilbert Road. So you can see here they've got some balconies and they've got some unique materials that provide some variety. It really helps to break up that building massing, and that was something that staff worked pretty closely with the applicant on through the various iterations of this plan. So as we look at this version, this is section 2, which this faces Juniper Road. One thing that I will point out as a condition of the approval of this, we have requested the applicant to modify the refuse enclosure along Juniper Road. So these elevations, they will be submitting some revisions to these elevations that depict the angled approach to that compactor along this side. So staff will be reviewing those to make sure that it's consistent with what's, the detail and the quality that we expect from this elevation. So when this is built, you might see a little bit different elevation here along the north side, but that will be approved by staff. This portion faces Ash Street. Again, there are some patios and some nice window treatments to help break up that massing. And then this elevation faces both park. This is kind of internal to the site. In terms of colors and materials for this, because of the architectural styles, there's a variety of materials used. Again, it really helps to create some interest and goes along with the design guidelines for the Heritage District in terms of theming, with historic type of building, and we'll see that more in the hotel building as well. But here you can see some of the colors and materials. There are quite a few for this multifamily building because of the architectural style. So with the mission style building, there's tile roofs and a variety of colors and bricks. With building 2, the hotel building, that's an 80,000 square foot building. It's 5 stories, with the very top of that building going to 71 feet 8 inches. Another thing to note that you will see as we go through a number of these elevations, along the ground floor you see those blocks that don't have any final design in those. One of the conditions of approval is that the applicant create design guidelines for those commercial spaces, and so that's another application that will be reviewed as they finalize those details to ensure that tenants, as they come in and try to customize their spaces, are upholding the standards that we expect from this development. So there will be established design guidelines. Those tenants won't be able to come in and just do whatever they want in those spaces. So those design guidelines will be reviewed through the process. This is the rear of the building that faces the Paseo. They do have some planned art within these areas as well that will be submitted as part of the master art plan that is also a condition of approval. So with this building, they are primarily using precast concrete and brick to accentuate the building features of this one. I will also point out one question that came up in the study session was related to the rooftop sign. The rooftop sign will be part of a heritage sign package that will be submitted at a later date. So as much as you've heard this, you're not done hearing about this project with these subsequent submittals that'll be coming in. And so you may see some sign locations, but those are not finalized and they will be subject to further review. With the mixed-use building number 3, towards the center of the site, this is that 31,000 square foot building. It's 2 stories in height. It's primarily brick with some metal accents. Again, the tenants will be able to customize those ground level suite spaces. And as I mentioned, precast concrete and brick make up the bulk of this material, as well as some metal accents. Retail building number 4 is attached to the parking garage. This is a small tenant suite space. It's 4,000 square feet. We saw this as part of the study session. No modifications were made. There's some interesting tile accents, but primarily this is, again, precast concrete. Retail buildings 5 and 6, we'll talk about 5 first. Those two really complement each other in design, but this first one is our 7,000 square foot building. It includes our public restrooms. So those public restrooms are in proximity to the commons open space to make sure that people visiting that space have a place to go if needed. This building is made, you can see the images there again, is made of CMU block, corrugated metal, some masonry, and some weathered steel. Retail building number 6, just along Gilbert Road, is 6,700 square feet. And this building really complements, I think, building 5. It provides some diversity in the roof line, as well as, some opportunities for the tenants to customize those spaces. Materials on this include brick, precast concrete, painted a variety of colors, some wood accents as well. Building number 7, this building has largely remained the same in design since the original submittal. It is our office building. It's 145,000 square feet. It does include some ground floor retail. As we know, it up to the very top of the mechanical screening is 79 square feet. So as we reviewed this one, it was really important that the massing was broken up and that it didn't feel like one very large building. And we think the applicant has achieved that well through the variety of heights, the variety of materials. It almost feels like it could be 3 separate buildings versus just one very large building. And so the materials on this, there's brick, precast concrete, there's storefront windows that are very large that provide some interest, especially along the Paseo. And then with our parking garage, this parking garage, since the study session, we know has been modified to include a full 5th deck of parking. So it's now 763 spaces, 5 full floors of parking. The design of this, staff worked really closely with the applicant through this process as well to ensure that, especially along Ash, it felt pedestrian friendly. One of the items in the development agreement was that they activate Ash Street at a pedestrian scale, and so some of the features that they did on that ground level we think really helps in that vein. So this building is made up of masonry, again, precast concrete, painted concrete. There's some steel frames in there as well to help accent it. And then finally, building 9 right in the center of the site is that small kiosk that's intended to kind of mimic the water tower in a way and just provide, quick convenience. As I mentioned, one of the really important pieces for staff as we went through this entire effort was the Paseo and making sure that the integrity of the Paseo and the intent behind it was upheld. And so we made some modifications as to how this would traverse through the site. And I know that we've covered this with Redevelopment Commission, but I think it still warrants a little bit of discussion. But so it's planned to enter at its current location. It goes through Building 7 and provides an opportunity to create some really unique spaces in there. It goes between buildings 5 and 6 through the Commons open space to help connect folks that may be their destination. And then again through Building 3 and then between the hotel and the multifamily building. There is planned art and directional signage to help folks know that as they travel through along the Paseo that they are headed in the right direction and they're still on the Paseo. You will also notice a condition in the report that as we continue to work with consultants on final design of the Paseo and the rest of the Heritage District, that the applicant will coordinate materials to make sure that those materials are consistent with final design, since we're not quite at that stage internally. And so we hope that we will have that nailed down by the time construction begins on the Paseo. We also worked really closely with the applicant on the amenities and the furnishings that occur throughout the site, and particularly along the Paseo. You may recall when this came to study session, I had shared with the commission that there was some room for improvement in terms of adding some benches and some other things along the Paseo between the multifamily and the hotel. And so I'm pleased to share with you that that the applicant was able to add some benches and some trash receptacles and those types of things that really are important as people utilize this pathway through. So throughout the site, there are opportunities for benches and tables and chairs. There's illuminated bollards to help keep the space safe during nighttime. There's trash receptacles as well as bike racks throughout. These are some renderings the applicant provided, two that I thought we could just quickly walk through. So this is along the south end of the site, Building 7 to the left. The Western Power Line Trail would be to the right on this image. And then again, as I mentioned, you would pass through Building 7 with that Paseo. So there's a really unique opportunity to create a interesting and creative space there. It then passes through the Commons open space and then through Building 3. Again, really unique features here. And then this is the view between the hotel and the multifamily building. One of the other items that we look for in a design review is the landscape plans. I've put the pretty picture landscape plan up here because the landscape plans were divided amongst like 7 different pages, and I thought you probably didn't want to hear me talk for that long. So a lot more detail goes into these than what you see up here. But in terms of those landscape plans, the applicant is meeting the requirements. The plant palette is consistent with the Heritage District design guidelines. In terms of plantings, they're proposing orchids, chatalpa, Chinese pistache, among others. The shrubs, again, consistent with the design guidelines. There's a variety of ground cover as well throughout the site. So it will be a well-landscaped site in addition to nicely designed buildings. I've mentioned before there were 2 neighborhood meetings. There was a lot of discussion at those meetings related to parking, which I think we've come to a much better position with our parking than we were in before by adding that full 5th deck of parking. There was discussion during those meetings of scooter, skateboard usage on site. Staff has had conversations about if in the future that were to become a problem or something that the applicant wanted to limit, we would have the tools to be able to, potentially geofence the site or put up signs, indicating that you couldn't ride scooters. So, I think that if that becomes an issue in the future, we definitely have the tools to be able to manage it. There was questions about safety after hours and traffic. Those are items that are always of concern as it relates to traffic. We do have an approved traffic study on the site, and our town traffic staff is comfortable with the improvements that are going to be made as part of this project. And then on a more broad scale level, the town is undergoing a number of projects and studies to evaluate traffic in the downtown. As you know, the Vaughan ventilator is something that we're working towards. So we feel comfortable with this project moving forward from a traffic perspective, given all that we've got going on. A question came up from our commission as well about overflow parking. We know that the site is currently used for overflow parking. The site itself houses about 584 parking spaces. And so the question was, do we have plans for a new overflow lot? And we do. So this is the very west end of Vaughan Avenue. The university building, you can barely see the corner of that picture to the right. And this new overflow lot could, when this site goes away and wouldn't be used for parking anymore, there is opportunity here for about 200, give or take, depending on final design, spaces, which, based on a demand analysis, we do believe to be a sufficient number of spaces. With that concludes my presentation. Staff does recommend approval of this item. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. The applicant is here as well and can answer any additional questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff?
I have a question. For a lot of those elevations that were blocked out for future tenant opportunities, you mentioned that they would have to follow design guidelines. And is that specific to the Heritage District design guidelines that they have to follow, or is that more of a landlord established design guideline?
No. So there is a condition in the staff report that they have to establish design guidelines, and those will come through the town for review. And this is something that is typical of large projects like this. The Heritage Marketplace has something similar. They have adopted design guidelines that were reviewed and approved by the town, and that we help to ensure that anything that comes in complies with those.
Thank you. Are those more of a lease space, or are they purchased condo style, those tenant spaces, or does that not? Do we not know?
That is probably a better question for the applicant. From a town perspective, it wouldn't necessarily make a difference for us, other than if they needed to do a condo plat or something like that to divide up that airspace. But he can certainly answer their intent.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bigelow, do you have any questions?
I don't. It was a very good presentation, and I think it honestly looks awesome. So I really appreciate all the work and effort you guys have put into this project. It's definitely a big undertaking. I know you guys have been working on it for a few years now, so I'm super excited to see it actually come to life.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question in regards to building number 2, which I believe is the hotel, and then on building 3, there was some concrete slabs, I believe you said, on the sides of the building that will be established through a different design guideline. Is that correct?
There is, let me get there. Make sure we're talking about the same spot. Are you talking about these two spaces here?
Yeah,
on the back end?
yeah, they actually seem pretty consistent in a lot of the buildings.
Yeah, so there is a condition in the report that they have to submit a comprehensive art plan to us for any proposed mural locations. So in one of the earlier iterations, they had shown some murals in that area, but because part of our review is not to actually review the art, we asked them to remove those from the drawings, but instead show us, through a separate submittal where art will go so that we can verify that, it meets the approximate dimensions that we were expecting, and that we wouldn't consider it signage and that it meets our decency code. So they'll just do a separate submittal kind of showing us all of the art throughout the site, and that would include these 2 panels.
I imagine there'll be some type of consistency or theme that might go along with the town or messaging.
We don't have the ability to regulate art other than, again, ensuring that it's not signage and that it meets our decency codes. So if they chose to do, kind of unique features for each building, that would be something they would be allowed to do.
I believe there was an addition to, benches and trash facilities along the Paseo specifically. When it comes to landscaping and those trash receptacles and cleaning of the benches, will that fall under the town's jurisdiction?
I believe I will have to look while the applicant is up here talking, and I can verify, but I believe we had a condition in the zoning, but that it was the applicant's responsibility. Do you remember, Amanda?
Yeah. Okay. I have no further questions. Commissioners, any follow-up questions? Okay. Would the applicant like to speak at this time?
For the record, Charles Humanel, on behalf of the applicant. At every one of these presentations, and we've had several, and we appreciate you being prepared for each one of these and hearing us out. It's been a long process. One of the screens says, I guess they all say, since they're all the same, there's a tagline that Gilbert has that says, "Shaping a New Tomorrow Today." And I think one of the things we're excited about is we're finally at today. We're at the end of this process. It doesn't mean we won't come back for other things, and I'll address some of the questions that you just made. But I want to take a moment to thank particularly Ashley and Amanda, who have also been here every step of the way through the pandemic and really helping us get to a better place. And we're super proud of the product that we have before you, the space that we've created, the buildings that we've created. And so I want to take some time to thank the people that helped get us here, because we wouldn't be in this spot without them. So thank you. The presentation's ready. I'm going to comment a couple of times before we start with the presentation. I'll comment on a couple of things. You asked about whether it was our intent to essentially plat this and sell out the individual pieces, or if it's to lease it as a more master leased product. And you asked another question later that was sort of similar in my mind, which is who makes sure this still looks good? And no one knows the future. I certainly wouldn't have predicted the last 3 years. Here we are. But our intent is to manage this ourselves. Some pieces of it will be somewhat different, but in general, we're not looking to sell things off. Ironically, that's what happened with Burger King and how we got into this situation. So it's our intent to sort of manage the tenant mix in a way that we think helps the overall product. That's true. We have several big assets here. We have multifamily development project that if it doesn't stay nice, we won't continue to lease. We have an office building that's the same situation, and we have a hotel that if it's not a nice area, we won't get the rents that we want. Hotel's a little different. That's the kind of thing that could eventually be taken off, and you could do anything different with each of those three assets. The retail, it's hard. It's an age-old sort of problem to figure out how to manage the various tenants in a way that works for everybody. And so everybody's got their own opinion on that. Our opinion is it's better off if we manage it. It's also why we want to make sure the park benches look nice and why we care about maintaining the landscaping, because those are the amenities for the entire project. This is a huge undertaking. Again, we don't know the future, but at least as it relates to the retail, which I think the question is, it would stay sort of consistent with the retail buildings. The hotel might someday be its own hotel and have its own sundry shop and restaurant, depending on what the hotel is and how that works. That's common. You also asked about the mural, particularly stipulation number 5 talks specifically about us getting approval. We understand that we have to have approval. We've done murals in other places, and I think we have a good sense of maybe not necessarily what the town does want, but what the town doesn't want. In this particular case, we thought we'd maybe do a Queen Creek on one building and then Chandler on the other. No, that would probably not work. We would of course keep it unique to downtown Gilbert. As I go through this presentation, if you want to stop me at any time to talk about this or anything else that has the word Gilbert in it, let me know, and I will shorten my presentation. Some of the images might be the same as what you've just seen. I think they're mostly different. So if we could go to the next slide. Oh, I actually have the clicker. The wonders of technology. Every town does it a little different. Some you don't get to do it yourself. I like this. So again, we've kind of made comments similar to this in the past, but you've seen a lot of things in between. I'd like you to pay special attention to the way the buildings lay out, the space between the buildings, the quasi-public space, and also the fact that I think each of these buildings we've designed to have its own character, its own uniqueness, but its own uniqueness really with a sense of everything else that's around it. We want it all to feel like it's evolved in concert, uniquely, but in concert. You can see the spine in this particular space. We really love that common space in between the retail buildings. And we think that's really going to be fun space to activate both as the folks running the retail, but also naturally, depending on what's happening on a given day, people will find their own reasons to meet here and use this space. That'll be great for the retail tenants. It's also going to be great for the town. I think this is really special space, and I think further separates downtown Gilbert apart from some of the other downtowns in the valley. We're really excited about the uniqueness of space this creates. And I guess I do want to say one other thing. It's pretty exciting to be part of this, but we wouldn't be part of this if it weren't for the town's vision of creating this kind of space. So I really applaud the town for having the foresight to put us in the position to do this. This is a similar shot, although from a greater distance, and you can really start in this shot to feel the grid, the walkability, the space. And again, you can see the lighting is different in areas, the landscaping is different in areas, but it all works together. It works together to create a really walkable, comfortable area. The variation in building heights, I think, is also really important. We really tried hard to create a series of different buildings. I know I talked about that in another meeting, but just want to remind you that the up and down of these buildings, the way that they sort of work, I think, is really important to making it feel like a place that evolved intentionally with good thought in each building, as opposed to 9 buildings that look pretty much the same. You know the site, so I'm going to kind of roll through this more quickly. We're trying to. We thought maybe this would be a good thing on one of the murals. Maybe we just put a picture of the old. Maybe that's not a good idea either. So we scratched that from the mural plan. I'm going to skip through some of this because I think it's already been covered. And happy to go back and cover as much of it as you want. But these are some of the images, the renderings of what we think the space will look like. In fact, will look like if you approve it. Again, great walkable space. The trees really make it comfortable. Paving materials, lots of different materials on the building designed to make the buildings each feel special. The signage on these buildings, of course, they aren't real tenants, but designed to give you a sense of how this might feel. My guess is it will be a long time before you see a project with this many buildings as one development in downtown. It's been really a unique challenge, but an exciting one for us to work through. Shall I continue to talk, or is it a good time for me to stop? All right. Thank you. Any questions for me?
Commissioners, any question for the applicant? Commissioner Bigelow?
No questions. Looks incredible. I'm super excited to see it kind of all come together.
Staff, are there any members of the public in attendance who wish to speak on item DR20-48 Heritage North?
Mr. Chairman, we have no request from the public to speak on the item before us.
Perfect. Are there any additional questions for town staff? Commissioner Meehan? Commissioner Bigelow? Perfect.
Nope.
I will close the public hearing on item DR20-48 Heritage North, and we'll look for the commission for discussion. Who would like to share their thoughts first?
I can share my thoughts. I appreciate the variety in the finishes and the overall palette from building to building. I feel like there is a cohesiveness that is felt with the green space, and some of the paseo helps, I think. Some of the other paths of travel throughout the buildings and between the buildings, I appreciate. And yeah, architects always have opinions on buildings, but I think that these are all very well done, and so I'm excited to see this come to fruition.
Thank you, Commissioner Meehan. Commissioner Bigelow, do you have any comments?
Just to kind of reiterate, I mean, it's an amazing project, and to be able to have one developer come in and purchase that much land at one time and develop all at once is honestly incredible and not an easy task to do. And I think they've done, even though these are very large buildings with a lot of square footage and a lot of different uses, they've done a really good job at breaking it up and making them feel like separate buildings and separate concepts, yet at the same time all flowing together and kind of just attaching right to our existing, little pocket that we have in the Heritage District. I don't know the exact square footage of retail and residential and everything that we have in the district, but I want to be surprised if we were over doubling all those square footages just off of this one project alone. So it's really, really awesome and super exciting.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Bigelow. I'm looking forward to this project as well. I think it's got a good rhythm to it as far as joining the current district and everything that we've done there and flowing it through, especially with the paseo. The design, I believe the staggering and, like I said, the rhythm has really brought it together. The applicant mentioned the space in between, I think, is good. You don't feel like everything is going to come down or collapse on you as you're walking through. At least that's my hope. So I'm excited to see how it's going to connect everything that is already established. and how that is going to play out. And I appreciate staff addressing the issue of the overflow parking and the potential for it to be behind the college building. I think that was on my drive here. I drove by and there was probably 200 cars parked there. So I think having some flexibility in that while the project is ongoing is important, so we don't make people mad. But I'm excited. So at this time, I would look for the commissioners for a motion.
I motion that we approve DR 20-48 Heritage North.
And I second that motion to approve DR 20-48 Heritage North.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Meehan and seconded by Commissioner Bigelow. I will now take a roll call vote. Commissioner Meehan?
Approve.
Commissioner Bigelow?
Approve.
I also approve, and it passes 3-0. Thank you, Ashley, for your presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kendall. All right. Are there any communications from our council liaison, Councilmember Tilkey?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just waiting for the mic, that's all. First of all, I want to thank the commission for this project. I mean, really, you've taken it from the beginning all the way to where we are today, and your thoughts were so instrumental in making this the best project it can be. Thanks to the team for all your work, and of course, our staff who's been there the entire time. So this is the largest project that we've ever done downtown, and it really, for years and years, we talked about a master plan for the downtown, and this is as close as you're going to get that, for, you know, for 9.1 acres. And so, congratulations. Thanks, gentlemen, for being here. I just had a couple of updates. We had a study session last week in which we had a economist come in and talk about balancing housing with the economy and what's going on. And it was just a presentation to kind of get it on our radar for the lack of housing, you know, as well as affordable housing. And you know, I don't know what we're going to do about it, but just thought I'd let you know it's on our radar and we'll be looking at it. Also, since our last meeting, we talked with our staff, and we're going to be moving into the community outreach portion of the Northwest Corridor. And so what we're doing at this point is asking for feedback. What's going on? What do you feel our challenges are? How do you think we can assist? And when we get that detailed, then we'll come back and we'll look at what a more formalized process will be. And so just wanted to let you know, because while it doesn't impact the Heritage District direct, it will be some of our neighbors. We have a finance retreat March 3rd and 4th. So we'll be talking about finance future of the town. A couple things that some people may want to provide some feedback on. Ocotillo Bridge is down by the regional park, and they have 4 designs that they're looking for feedback from the community, and so you can go online and provide your feedback. They've got some really cool designs. I think you would like to see those. And then we also have the transportation master plan that we're gathering feedback from the community as well. So if you want to go online, you could do that. And I think with that, that's my report. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councilmember Tilkey. Commissioners, do you have any updates you'd like to share? Amanda, is there a report from staff?
All right. Yes. Thank you, Chairman. I have a couple updates. So I know I've mentioned Gypsy Cup a couple of times in our Redevelopment Commission meetings, but they will be opening in March. And so they're kind of not branding themselves as a coffee shop per se, but more of a European cafe. And so they've shared with us that they'll have coffee and beverages, they'll have charcuterie, and they'll also have like a pastry area so you can get European pastries. So very excited to have them open. It is a very beautiful space. And then we also heard an announcement that the Bar, which is a Pulp Fiction themed restaurant, will be coming to the Heritage District. And that'll be in the space that was previously occupied by Nico and Copper 48. And then just wanted to share that we are in the full swing of the tourism season for the Heritage District. And so as a placemaking opportunity and a way to bring awareness to the Heritage District and draw visitors downtown, Discover Gilbert is promoting a pop-up roller skating rink that will be located on Ash Street, just west of Water Tower Plaza. It'll be there during the time where students are on spring break in Gilbert. And so it will be open Monday through Thursday from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. will be free skate. And then weekends, Fridays and weekends will be $5 per person per hour, which includes the cost of skates. But be right next to Water Tower. Great opportunity as we have other events happening. We have the spring concerts series coming in March as well. And so those will take place at lunchtime. And so there is one coming up. I don't recall the date off the top of my head. March 11th, thank you. And that is 11:30 to 1:30. But I know one of those will be actually like a kid's sing-along with a piano sing-along. So great opportunity to bring the kids down and have some fun things for them to do. And then, of course, during that same time as the pop-up roller rink, the art walk will be happening and the farmer's market. So great opportunity, good weather, hopefully, and just would love to see all the families out in Gilbert. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much, Amanda. With that, we will adjourn this evening's meeting. It is 6:48 p.m., February 16th, 2022. Thanks.